or?
Yep, I'm on it.
So good morning, everybody. Just like to acknowledge that we are privileged to gather on the traditional territory of the Kwakwala speaking peoples. We'll call the meeting to order. And can I have a motion, please, to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
I have to second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Sorry, I got the wrong. Here we go. Okay, old business, 3A pool mechanical upgrades. You've got the email from Julian. And Julian, was there anything you want to add, or shall I just open it up for council to ask questions?
I'm assuming that everybody's read it. It's fairly to the point. I have questions, fine.
Okay, go ahead, council. Any questions from Julian on his email?
Well, quite frankly, I'm a little bit mystified because there's not enough information here to even know what's going on there.
Do you have any further details as to why the increase?
Well, I guess I was thinking maybe we would get a look at least the specifications or something so we know what's changing and why it's costing more. I understand there's a cost overrun and it's been negotiated down to the lowest possible number, and that's great. Beyond that, there really isn't much information there, I'm afraid.
Apologies there, Councillor Mitchell. I could get the tender package, the details of the specifications in there, and get that to you guys to take a look at if that's what you wish.
What's the time frame here? I understood there was urgency.
Yes, so in my email, like in the last line there, my second to last line, January 1st, 2021, the suppliers, several of them, I've been told, are increasing their costs as much as 15%. And that's just a calendar year thing that they do. So we have a lot of suppliers for different things, as you're aware, and it might be piping, anything, and they have an annual price list, and then at whatever date that they choose, it's not always January 1, prices go up. So that would increase the cost too if we wait until after January 1st. If it is approved, then Ridgeline are basically on standby, literally a phone call away just to secure the materials.
Before Councillor Danny had a question before she asked, just to add to that, Julian, I believe also that you had quite a bit of consultation with experts ahead of putting the bid process out, thought that the bid was going to be the amount that we budgeted, and and you were quite shocked at how high the bids did come in, correct?
Absolutely. We all were, and I was quite miffed with Rocky Point Engineering because, to be quite honest with you, they couldn't be here, but they should be the ones that are answering to questions like Councillor Mitchell. And I'm not trying to pass the buck. I mean, it's my project and I'm managing it. However, I'm not a pool equipment expert. And we lean on these experts to guide us through the process. And I was appalled at the costs being so far out. And to be quite honest with you, it doesn't make me look good in, garnering trust from mayor and council, when you're that far out. And I can't get a concise answer from Rocky Point. They're sort of saying that it's, a lot of it's material cost. A lot of it's material cost that's gone up, and I understand that. There was a little bit of a discrepancy in the scope of work. So initially, there were a couple of things that were actually not in the original scope. So we took all that out again. It wasn't an awful lot, but it did actually inflate the price. So it's still now down to like the lowest dollar number that we can get to. And like I put in my email, I mean, that's compromising quite a bit, getting creative with things like, for example, just to put it in sort of context for you guys, originally we were going to have an inline spare recirculation pump. Right now there's only one. When it goes down, then the pool's closed immediately. So the plan was to have two side by side. So if one goes down, no problem, automatically or manually transfer to the next pump. So you don't have to close the pool down and then repair the other pump. We sort of changed all that. So now I'll literally have a spare pump and motor on the shelf. So if the other one blows up or whatever, and it's during the day, the pool will only be down now for, you know, half of a day or something like that. Time for me to actually switch out the pumps. That saved quite a bit of money, piping cost, installation cost, that sort of thing. So that's what I'm getting at when I was saying we're creative with the scope of work. We're not necessarily cutting corners. So we're going to end up with a sort of a cheap, something that's not going to last. But it's stuff like that. And then of course we've taken a lot out, and a lot of the items we're going to do in-house. It's going to be a stretch, but that's getting the cost down. I mean, we've got the ability to do it. Okay. But just so council know, there's been an awful lot of time. Sorry, I've still got phone calls coming in. There's been an awful lot, not just my time, but an awful lot of time really trying to get a good product for a decent price. And it's amazing, like, you know, the cost of some of this equipment is just, you know, and the cost of getting it installed. I mean, it's just remote living, and the list goes on. Like,
well, it's a specialty thing, and Port Hardy is experiencing the exact same thing right now. Councillor Downey?
Yeah.
A couple questions. We're doing the mechanical upgrade for the pool, and just to confirm that if we were to build a new pool, the mechanics that we're putting in today will be usable on a future project, or no?
Some of it will be, and then some of it we would have to see, because the design, it would all depend on the design of the new pool.
That's one.
Yeah.
How much did we get from the government in the grant? Was that 330,000?
No, it was 300 or 70% of 300, so 220-ish. Pete, help me out.
So I don't recall the number off the top of my head, but for some reason 227 rings in my head.
Yeah, 70% of 300.
Okay, so we're looking at 323,000. I guess where I'm coming from is I'm thinking we still have an old facility with other problems, and now we're up to $500,000, and we still have the same facility we've always had. Granted, the mechanics will be better, but I'm discerning whether this is just, maybe my question is how long will this extend the life of the pool? Cost benefit.
Yep, good question. Mechanically, the mechanical will outlast the rest of the pool, like the actual pool basin itself, unless we do a refit on that as needed. But the mechanical, I mean, this will last 20 years.
I'm thinking of the package, you know, just the pool as it is now with just putting in our regular maintenance dollars. Can we expect another 5 years, 10 years? I'm looking at 550. Am I averaging this down to 55,000 a year going forward, or is it like more like 100,000 a year in 5 years? We're ripping the whole thing out and starting over again.
No, it's just the first, and I wouldn't say 10 years. I'd say longer than 10 years.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
20 years.
Okay.
I
I would motion that we would go ahead with the revised project of 550,000 to Ridgeline. Are you looking for a motion, or are you just looking for feedback?
I think he's looking for a motion to increase that extra amount there of the budget, and then
Where the money's coming from.
Where the money's coming from, yeah. So whether it's the COVID research funds, it's not to award it to a particular person, it's just to increase the budget. Is that correct, Julian? Yeah.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
then where it comes from, whether it comes from the COVID restart funds, North Island Community Force, or any surpluses that we have.
So I will just motion that we increase the budget to allow for, to increase the budget, period. That's my motion as it stands. Where the funds come from, we will discuss in our budget meetings. We're pretty much finished 2020. This is a 2021 decision.
Okay, just one moment. Seconder for that motion, sorry, before Pete goes and writes it out. Okay, Councillor Barron. While Pete is typing that out, further discussion, I know Councillor Mitchell, you wanted to say something?
I guess I had a general idea of what we were going to be putting in the equipment room in the pool 6 months ago, but now I don't really know, and I don't see anything here that tells me. I'm not, and to me, cutting out the redundant pump is really a big cut because of reliability for the short season that we have. The pump goes down, the season could be closed for 2 weeks if it took that long to get parts. I don't like that. And we're spending $500,000 and we can't have a redundant pump. I'm struggling. So what else have we cut? I guess that's my question. To get to this number that that we had thought we were getting. We don't know what we're getting because we don't have anything in front of us except a request for money. And I'd like to have more information, and there's only 2 days, so obviously I'm not going to get it. I'm not content to vote for something that's blind. I feel I'm voting blind.
And just to further on Ryan, Councillor Mitchell's question, what was the cost of that extra pump, Julian?
I'm looking for it right now.
Oh, okay.
Apologies. I don't have all of that information in front of me. The pump itself is new. It's one of the items that I requested from council for the sort of the Band-Aid last year, prior to startup. So as far as reliability goes, that is a new pump per se, and then the spare would be new. So just to clarify on that, I could change that pump out within a matter of hours, Councillor Mitchell, as opposed to waiting for parts to repair it or have to send it out to get rewound or, that sort of thing. The pump itself was about $9,000.
And we're going to have one in stock?
It will be sitting there, like at the pool. So it's you know what I mean? It's like a compromise. I completely agree with you. Like, that was one of the things that I'm absolutely adamant about in the tender package when we put it out was to have redundancy. It's an important piece of equipment because I have to close the pool if there's no circulation. So the best compromise was to have an actual spare, complete entire unit there at the pool, so that if we do encounter something like a catastrophic failure, then we can actually change it out literally within, like I said, it'll be 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours.
Right, so we're going to have a spare on hand. I guess my next question, if I may ask another question, is how many boilers are we going to have? What's our equipment list that we're talking about here?
Yeah, it'll be one boiler. That was kind of requested there for because we were going to have redundancy there. However, that was a request made by council that we just have the one boiler, because then that will be the redundancy if council wishes to go with the heat pumps next year.
I wasn't around for that. Okay.
Yeah, that was the other application we made for a grant. And that was also tying in, is that correct, Pete? That would be tying in with, would be heat pumps and tying in with the regional districts system, correct? Yeah, and that was 100% funding, I believe. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, that's a new one on me. I was pretty certain we were going to put 2 boilers in there.
Well, there is one new boiler going in. So just to give you a brief sort of synopsis here. Pool filtration and chemical treatment, 109,000. Heating, 200,000, approximately numbers. Plumbing, 8,000. Controls, 30,000. Electrical is a big one. That's all going to be upgraded at 40,000. And then all the rest is basically adding up to another 40,000. So 444,000 there was Ridgeline's cost. And then basically the rest of the cost is our portion of putting things in. So like I said, we have, and I apologize, I should have sent the list with my email or some kind of a breakdown of what the equipment is.
So $200,000 for one, what, 2 million BTU boiler?
Yeah, we run with one boiler right now. Remember we did, I believe you've seen it. Yeah, basically it's a much more efficient replacement of that. So it's
sure.
Yeah, condensing 96% or 97% efficient.
Sure. But we're only going to have one, so there will be no redundancy until if we ever put some other type of heating system in there.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so there's no
absolutely.
redundancy. So after all this, we're still going to be depending on one boiler. Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
Councillor Mitchell, I don't know if you were at that meeting or not, where we went and applied for the application. I don't think that it was necessarily dead in the water. It was just an application, a grant application where it qualified for, and I believe that the decision by council was made that if we don't get the grant, we were still going to look at the possibility of tying it in because it was important to be a part of that project. So that's where I believe it was left. So we would have, we could possibly have the redundancy if council approves it to by tying into the RD's heat loop.
Right. Yeah, no, I never saw any data on that. I wasn't at that meeting. I remember not being there.
Okay, I'm just going to ask if Councillor Barron has any questions. Sorry. Did you have anything to add to the conversation? No? Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Mitchell. Do you want to ask one more question before I call the question?
No, I just can't support it with the way actually the project's been gutted in terms of improving the redundancy that we were looking to do when we started. And it's costing every bit of money that we've got to do it. So okay. I'm not happy with that.
All right, thank you.
No redundancy on the heating, and marginal redundancy on the pumping. Those are the two things that make a pool work.
Okay. Councillor Downey?
I just would echo Councillor Mitchell's sentiments as well. I'm not real happy either, but the reality is this is the cards we've been dealt with, and our choice is do nothing, leave it as it is, and hope for the best, and possibly end up with a full shutdown and then go straight to a capital planning stage for a new facility, or we take some of the grant funds, add hours, and buy some time for the next 5 to 10 years and come up with a good plan for a replacement facility at that time. So I absolutely agree with you, Councillor Mitchell, but I don't know how we still provide a service of a pool to our community and not spend this money at this time.
Okay, thank you.
The pool was missed. I think the pool was missed this summer.
Mm-hmm.
And COVID aside, if we didn't have the pool because of mechanical, or like we start the season and then the Band-Aids fall through, that's the summer employment for the kids. That's the pool can be used by almost anybody of any ability, as opposed to some other facilities that we have that you just can't adapt to. So I mean, I agree with Councillor Downey. It is what it is. I'm also putting a lot of trust into Julian.
Yeah.
I mean, the engineers are the engineers, and okay, maybe they were out a bit on their material costs. Hopefully that's all it is, and we are getting stuff that we can either resell later if we choose not to use it in the next facility, or we can reuse it. It's kind of crappy, but it is what it is.
Okay, so I'll call the question then. All those in favor of increasing to cover those extra costs? Councillor Downey's, and opposed? Councillor Mitchell. Okay. one question for you for our CAO, Pete. You did say in an email that you needed to approve for the funds, or can that wait for the next meeting when we're all together? Because is it a 2021 thing, or is it a carryover from 2020? You're muted.
I'll have to defer that question to our CFO. I'm not sure how she will carry it over. The motion as I have it is that the discussion of the expenditure will be discussed during the budget process.
Okay.
I'm satisfied with that at this point. If it
Okay.
becomes something more, then I'll contact council.
Thank you very much. Okay. Great. So then item 4A, I need a motion to go in camera under section 91I. Thank you very, okay, seconded. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Before I ask for questions from are there any public, first of all? Don't go yet, Julian.
Wait.
Are there any questions? Is there any public? Doesn't look like.
One person.
Oh, okay.
But no questions so far.
I just wanted to say thank you very much to Julian and the rest of the staff, Harbor staff as well, for responding over the holidays. I know that wasn't easy. 2020 is the year that just keeps giving. And so thank you also for updating council. I know that we're all fielding questions and whatnot. So to be able to say that it is being taken care of and what jurisdiction it falls under was helpful to us as a council when we were approached on these things. So thanks very much for working during your holiday. And same Pete and the Harbor staff, if you can pass that along. Okay, I don't see any questions. So do we have a link, Pete, for in camera?
Yes, I do believe I sent it yesterday. I can resend it right away again if everyone would like, though.
We'll see you shortly. Thank you. Oh, motion to adjourn. Okay.